Here we see Logos homepage. You will soon realize that the user interface hasn't changed dramatically, so there's not much really new that you have to learn or anything like that, but it does look crispier, nicer than the previous version, and overall the performance is a lot better. Now I have here some shortcuts. We're going to open my preferred Bible, the English Standard Version in this case, and although you can't see it here, this is in fact a reverse interlinear. I'm not displaying the interlinear itself, which you can do by pressing this button, or in line right here, but we're not going to display all the information right now. Suffice it to say that it's all there. Every word has been tagged according to the underlying original text. We're in the New Testament, so we were talking about the Greek text, and has been tagged according to various data that will help us a lot in our searches and in our research. So I want to draw your attention to one of the new search features, and we are using the magnifying glass as usual to open the search dialog. As you can see, there's a lot of help that we didn't have before in this layout, with examples that help us build our searches. And we have, as before, the basic, the Bible, the morph, and the syntax search, but here's the clause search, which I want to talk to you about for a minute. Now, for me, this is the single most important advantage of Logos 5. It's just a whole different search paradigm. By tagging for meaning the text of Scripture, we can now gather all the information from syntactic sources, from morphological sources, and from those new data sets that come with Logos 5, and build searches like we've never been able to do before. For example, let's think about the subject of a sentence, of a clause that we want to look for. Let's say we want to search for the disciples, so subject disciples, and we want to do that when they have Jesus as the object of the clause. So we write object colon Jesus, and let's say we want to find places where the verb to love is involved. So what this means is that the disciples will be the subject of the clause. They will be loving or doing something that has to do with love, and the object of that love, we want it to be Jesus. So we press enter, and we find 3 verses in the New Testament. Notice here that we are only searching the Gospels, and we find these 3 verses in John's Gospel. Now, they all meet our requirements, but none of them refer by name to the disciples, either as a group or naming the disciples themselves, or Jesus. Notice that in the English version that we have here, we have pronouns. If you, that is the disciples, love me, that is Jesus, you will keep my commandments. And again, if you, the disciples, loved me, Jesus, And for the third time, you, the disciples, have loved me, Jesus. In other words, it is very interesting to note that this tool will find all the oblique references, all the indirect references to the people that we are looking for, in this case, disciples, or the objects of the clauses, even if they are not named. So whether they are referred to with a pronoun or anything like that, this clause search will find it. Now, this is a great enhancement to what we were used to in previous kinds of searches. Now, I do want to note one thing, though. Now, if we read the Greek passage, we would realize immediately that we have two of the three instances where agapao, the Greek verb to love, is used, and one of them where the verb phileo is used rather than agapao. So we could rearrange our search and say, well, let's look for the instances of agapao or phileo in Greek. Now let's use the same search and modify it slightly. So the subject will be the disciples, the object will be Jesus, but rather than searching for the English verb, we're going to use verb, let's see if I can type it right, verb lemma, and as we begin to type, agapao will appear. We type in English, but agapao will appear there. So now we have all the instances where disciples is the subject, the object of the love, the verb, will be any form of agapao, any tense, anything, any variation of agapao, and the object of the love will be Jesus. So in other words, it should find two hits, return two results. It should find John 14:15 and 14:28. Let's see if that's the case. Well, here we are, John 14:15 and John 14:28. Evidently, we have in English the same translation, and here, of course, we can display any translation we want, and we see at a glance that, in fact, it does use agapao and agapao. So, well, the problem, one of the refinements that I'd like to see in this clause search would be the ability to search for with the help of Boolean operators. So, for example, it would be nice if we could find here, if we could write something like or verb lemma phileo, for example. But currently this is not possible. Now, if we could use and searches or searches, perhaps this could be simplified and use just a comma and phileo, which it will not allow me to do that. It would be fantastic. So this is by far my favorite feature in what I've seen so far of Logos 5, but I very much hope that it can be enhanced and in this way, using Boolean operators. Also, one of the things I'd like to see is the use of wildcards. For example, let's say disciples again, or better still, let's say we could use an asterisk and say any subject, no particular one, just any one, and having the as the object colon Jesus, and again, for example, verb could be to love. So that should allow us to find anyone who loves Jesus in the New Testament or in the Gospels in this particular example. Unfortunately, this cannot be done right now. Of course, the information is in the databases, so let's hope that the clause search feature can take advantage of that information and allow us to use wildcards like this. Also, it would be very nice to see, for example, having Jesus as the subject and using verb lemma and having an asterisk. It would be nice if we could see, all the verbs that have Jesus as the subject. Now, this is just, I know I'm perhaps pushing the envelope here, but to me, that would be a wonderful, wonderful tool to have. I'm sure that there's room for improvement, so I'm hoping that this particular feature, which is excellent as is, will be greatly improved on in future versions or in future point releases.